I'm Eugenie Wolf, a learning designer at KUS. In this video, I will discuss how to write learning outcomes and assessment criteria. Learning outcomes are typically written on 3 levels. First, the exit level outcomes, or ELOs, are written for the program in its entirety. They must be aligned to the exit level SAQA level descriptors. Thus, a 3-year bachelor degree must have ELOs on level 7, whereas a 1-year PG DIP must have ELOs on level 8. Usually there are 5 to 8 ELOs per program. Note that they are very broad statements of what a student should be able to do upon completion of the program. Second are the module outcomes. MOs are module specific. They should align with one or more of the program ELOs and also to the module purpose statement. Usually there are about 7. That's 1 MO per week of online learning. Finally, we have the weekly outcomes, which are unit or theme specific. They must align to the MO. We often write 2 or 3 a week in order to scaffold the student. So where do the LOs fit into the bigger scheme of module planning? Well, once we have thought about our module title, we start to think about the purpose statement. This statement tells the student about the content to be covered in the module, and more importantly, what applied competencies the student will gain after their learning journey. The purpose statement is also informed by the ELO to which the module aligns. The purpose statement informs the module learning outcomes. These are statements which indicate to the student what they should know and be able to do upon completion of the module. The MOs are written on module NQF level and are suited to the module discipline. Finally, the MOs must be accompanied by the associated assessment criteria. The ACs tell the student how they will demonstrate mastery of module learning outcomes. In other words, how will they be assessed and what criteria are considered as masterful? So what formula do we follow to write a learning outcome? First, we start with a verb. The verb indicates what the student is expected to be able to do at the end of the module. Most MOs are written on higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. The second component of an LO is the noun, or content or discipline, or skill that the student must master. In other words, what or with what the student is acting. Third are words that indicate the nature, thus the context or standard of the performance required. Let's look at an example. This learning outcome indicates that by the end of the module, the student should be able to explain different psychological approaches to the study of the individual within the context of management history. Explain is the verb. Different psychological approaches to the study of individuals is the content. And within the context of management history gives the student the context. Let's try this one. By the end of this module, the student should be able to draft a research proposal for an action research study in the higher education context. Were you able to spot the 3 components? Draft is the verb or what the student will do. A research proposal for an action research study is the noun or what the student will be performing the action on. And in the higher education context provides the nature, thus the context in which the action will take place. One final example. By the end of this module, the student should be able to analyze risk management strategies for investment and insurance decisions. This learning outcome consists of a verb, analyze, risk management strategies, that's the content, for investment and insurance decisions provides the context. Now for the associated assessment criteria. Remember, ACs make explicit to students how well the learning outcome has been achieved. They speak to the quality of the achievement. ACs also consist of 3 components. They provide a verb in addition to the performance standards and criterion. A criterion is a property or characteristic by which the quality of something may be judged, whereas standards are about definitive levels of quality, achievement, or performance. Let's look at an example. If a student is expected to design a page layout according to a given brief, they need to know what components a page layout consists of. In the example, the student can see they will be assessed on font and color usage. Yet another aspect of being given a design brief is to adhere to a budget. Learning outcomes should therefore be broken down into smaller components in the assessment criteria. Note, students are also told about the performance standards expected for each criterion. Font should be appropriate as given in the publisher brief. Colors should be appropriate according to the design principles, and the budget must align to the costing plan. In this example, students will need to show that they are able to use verbal and non-verbal communication skills within professional settings. The assessment criteria will therefore require of the student to differentiate correctly between verbal and non-verbal communication cues in given scenarios, and also to create a video demonstrating examples of the 10 functions of verbal and non-verbal communication in a professional setting. Remember, learning outcomes tell the student what they should be able to do, whereas assessment criteria tell the student that achievement of the learning outcome will be evident when they demonstrate certain levels of mastery. Learning outcomes contain overarching verbs, while 2 to 5 assessment criteria are usually given with verbs on lower, middle, or higher Bloom's levels to scaffold the student in achieving the given learning outcome. Lastly, LOs contain the content and context, whereas ACs provide the criterion and standards. If you have any queries about the content discussed in this video, don't hesitate to reach out to your dedicated KUS learning designer.